Hello, I'm Vernon Bode. I want to show you my heater I built for my camping trailer. The unit mounts on the side, blows air through the wall of the trailer. The source of the heat is this burner. This is a 15,000 BTU burner. It uses a regulated low pressure regulator, and I use a bottle, 5-gallon bottle, as the source of propane. The way this unit is built, it consists of 32 aluminum plates, and there's a fan inside the trailer that blows the air through half of the core of the heat exchanger, and then it loops back and goes back into the trailer. The heat from the burner goes out vertically. This is a carbon monoxide detector alarm. Anytime you're going to have a fire burning around the trailer, you want to be sure that you can detect if it's leaking carbon monoxide. Okay, now I want to show you the tools I used to make this heat exchanger. That's the floor-mounted drill press. You use it for just about every drilling operation. This is a chop saw that I used. You could use a hacksaw, but I used it. It's got an abrasive metal cutting wheel, and I used it to cut the aluminum bars that I needed. And here are some of the tools. The aluminum sheets were cut with hand shears, and at times you need to beat on it with a rubber mallet. Need to clamp things down, and this is a drill guide that I made. The parts that you'll end up making to assemble this heat exchanger are sheets of aluminum. They're 1 foot by 1 foot. 2024 aluminum, T3 temper, and it's called clad aluminum. And these are 1/8 inch thick, 3/4 wide strips of aluminum that are used in the construction. And then there will be like 16 bolts to hold the assembly together. This is what I call a wave spring that holds the sheet of aluminum in good contact with the edge bar, so it won't leak. The first thing that I made to help me accurately drill the plates was this drill guide. Let me put this in front of the camera so you can see just how it's constructed. It's 1 foot long. It's got five 5/16 inch holes in it. The holes on the end are 3/8 inch from the end, and the other 3 holes are evenly spaced along the bar. This bar is 3/16 thick steel steel bar. To drill these sheets, I used this drill guide, and the way I did it, I stacked all 32 plates in a stack, and then I clamped the drill guide on the edge of it. And I first made one hole at the corner, and before I did anything else, I put a 5/16 pin in that hole to make sure nothing moved, and I drilled the remaining holes. And one thing, I've got one end of this drill guide marked as a reference end in case there's any differences. I want to know how it was positioned on the part. So once I get those 5 holes drilled, I rotate this around to the other edge and check that I'm 90 degrees, and I drill one more hole on this end. And again, before I drill any more holes, I always like to put an index pin in the end of it, and I drill the remaining holes. Once I've got those drilled, I rotate this around approximately 90 degrees, but in this case, instead of relying on it being 90 degrees, I take a bar that was made using this drill guide, and I place it across to that first hole. I got to make sure that my drill guide is under this hole. Then I clamp everything down and continue to drill the holes. So after I've got those holes drilled, then I pin. This end was the first one I drilled. And I go ahead and pin both ends, clamp it down, and drill the remaining holes. So that gives me 32 plates, and I neglected to say I mark with a permanent marker the end that my reference is on the drill guide. Okay, the next step is to drill the bars that will go along the edges of each plate. And to do that, I stack like a dozen blank bars under my drill guide, clamp it down, go over to the drill press, and drill all the holes. And again, after I drill the first hole, I always put my index pin in to make sure nothing moves as I drill the remaining holes. In fact, I drill one hole here, one on the opposite end, and then I pin both ends before I drill the remaining holes. Now, I need about 66 of these bars to complete the heat exchanger. Okay, before we go any further, let's look at where we're heading with these different parts. These plates are going to be stacked with these bars on the edge. And what these bars do is channel the way the air is going to go through. The heater is going to pass its exhaust vertically through the heat exchanger. So every other plate will be built like the one I'm showing you right now. The next plate, instead of the bars being on this side, they'll be horizontally, and that's to allow the air from the trailer to pass horizontally through the heat exchanger. But when you build one section, the first thing you got to do is level off a place for the next plate to lay. These parts are called wave spring spacers. They'll go when your bars are on this side, the other sides will have these on it, and so that it's going to stack up solid, we'll use two washers. What we're trying to do is build up to the thickness of the bar, which is 1/8 of an inch. These washers are 50 thousandths thick, and that piece of metal is 25 thousandths thick. So it all adds up to 125 thousandths, or 1/8 of an inch. So where the bolts are going to go, there's going to be 3 bolts out here, not counting the corner bolts. So this wave spring is going to hold the plate against the aluminum bar, so there's no leakage. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is how you manufacture these wave springs. I made these fixtures. That's a piece of oak. It's got a saw crack to accept these little bars. These bars extend 7/32 up out of the wood. When you first start, you'll just have a straight piece with one hole in the middle. This one's already been formed, but it would lay across there, and the top piece would set down over the guide. This is a guide pin, and what you would then do is beat on that with a hammer a few times to form these. Now, what I've found out, it's better to leave the 2 off of each end and do this in 2 steps. You put it together and bang on it, and what you're doing is forming these waves in the middle. And what I do is like 12 at a time or so. Once I get those done, I put them back on there with these parts installed. And again, I put the top on there and bang it, and it'll go ahead and form the rest of the waves on the wave spring. Here are some little drawings that kind of shows the spacing on how to make that fixture. That was the bottom part, and then this is the top. And I found that a saw blade on a table saw pretty much makes the width, this 1/8 inch width that you need. I had to kind of push it back and forth just a little bit to get the width that I needed so these slip in easily. On the top, what I wanted was for them to be in tight, and if they weren't tight, I put a pin next to them to make sure they don't drop out when I turn this over. It would be a good idea after you make a few of these wave springs to test that they're doing what you want. Mainly, if you put a bar next to it, put 2 washers on each of the places where the bolt holes are, and then put a flat bar across there, and just feel how much it takes to close all the gaps, the gap on between the bar and the bar and the washers. If there's any gap under the washer, you're not pushing hard enough. So you want to know how much effort it's going to take when you start bolting this thing together. If you make these wave springs too high, what it'll do is, as you're putting this thing together, it'll stack up too quick, and it'll be hard to keep it pushed down to finish putting it together. So typically, if you make this so that these waves have to be compressed about 1/32 of an inch, that's probably about right. When you get all the parts manufactured, you're going to start putting it together, and the first plate that you'll start with is a special plate. It's the side plate. It has a 1 foot by 1 foot pattern of bolt holes, but it has an extra 1 inch on the right, and it has 5 inches on the left. This is to extend into the trailer, and this flange is used to make the loop around where the air is going to go through and circle back. And the bottom part of this is to make a chamber for the burner to be in. The propane burner stove will be right on the bottom of this. And after you build onto this with 16 plates, alternating the bars on the side, vertical and horizontal, you get to the center plate. You want a plate that is 2 feet long. The whole pattern will be on the right. This is to separate the airflow going into the trailer from that where the fan is blowing to the discharge after it circles back. So this is what your center plate will be. And after you put it in, then you'll continue on and put the other 16 plates, build them up, and then on the last one it will be another side plate like this. This is a little card that shows the dimensions on the side plate. So once you get the whole stack built up and you have 16 bolts bolted down, then what you're going to do is make a piece that will connect to here and loop around. In other words, it'll be like 5 or 6 inches across, and it'll attach to those flanges with sheet metal screws. That's to let the air that's being blown through half of the heat exchanger to circle back and go through the other half back into the trailer. So once you have this curved part screwed on, now you need to seal off the top and bottom of it. And what you do is make a piece like a half of a circle with tabs on it. You bend the tabs over, and then what I used was pop rivets, drilled and pop rivet these tabs to this curved part, top and bottom. So that seals it off. Now, if you don't get a perfect seal on any of this, what you want to use is a metal foil tape that's used for heating systems. And it's an adhesive type tape, but it's all metal, so it isn't going to be affected by the heat. Once you get this built and attach it to your opening through your wall of your trailer, in top view, this is what you're going to have. You're going to have the heat exchanger stuck through the wall. There's going to be a blower. The little fan is actually from a computer, a cooling fan for a computer, 3-inch square fan. It works on 12 volts DC. I have a battery that's a marine type deep discharge battery that I use. But your airflow is going to come out of your trailer, pass through half of it, circle back, and that one center plate, what I did was bend it at the end to make it deflect the air, keep it away from the fan, make circulation inside the trailer.